But those are the patterns that really are going to show you, like, is this sustainable? Does this feel like this is catering to the most authentic and loving version of me that I can be with this person?
Yeah.
Like that, I feel like it's such a breakthrough moment.
And your partnership is the most important, arguably, person you'll ever choose in your
Yeah.
life.
Katie, welcome to Ahmani's Infinite Love. So grateful to have you on the show. I love the way that we connected as well. It's just like it felt like so divine, the way that just things happen, And when I was looking into your background, your website, what you do, it really spoke to me because I know that you're also like very heart led, heart based, heart centered. So, just a little bit of background about your work and like what you got into. How did this find you? How did your practices? Because I know you have practices within therapy, mindfulness practice, Buddhism as well, and you've been studying that here in Thailand too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, lots rolled into that. So
Yeah.
thank you for having me and yeah, just the opportunity to talk and share together and building on the conversations that we've had before. It's been so rich and it's been so fun and heartful. Like there really has been this through line of heart the whole time.
Every time.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, coming from that, I feel like I need to begin with the disclaimer that I'm not a therapist,
Okay. Yes.
because it's an important differentiation. So the work that I do is mindfulness based work, and now I have my private coaching practice, and it's a psychoeducation based. It's informed by contemporary psychology. I am studying for my counseling certification. Um, but yeah, I feel like I need to make the official disclaimer,
Yeah.
not a
Yes.
therapist.
Good to know. Your work is like so therapeutic to me. So like I just automatically associated with that. But yes, good disclaimer.
You know, so I do model everything after being education based. And a part of the reason is because for almost 15 years, I've been an educator and
No.
working in international schools.
Okay.
And there I was the mindfulness coordinator and well being coordinator. So it's been a lot of my work for a long time.
Yes.
Um, but really, I guess my journey started exactly with what you've mentioned before, which is your own wondering and our own search for what's real and what's meaningful. And then when you stumble upon something beautiful and it lights up the right parts of you, you like are desperate to share it and shout it from the rooftops.
Yes.
So that's been part of my journey with mindfulness. I was about 20, which is a while ago now. And I started learning about Buddhism and reading about meditation. And I remember sitting for some of my first meditation sessions in the bedroom of my parents' house over the summer in between university semesters. And I just remember how much insight I was getting into how my mind was working for the first time. And I was angry. I was like, why did no one teach me how to understand my own mind?
Yeah, right?
How have I gotten to 20 years old and almost to a university degree, and no one has been teaching me how to relate to my own mind? And so it felt like the first year of my practice with mindfulness was unlearning, so much unlearning, and it continuously is. It's the never-ending journey.
Yeah, I feel like that's most of the journey. Anyway, so much.
Yeah, and deeper layers, and then you get to some clarity, and maybe you get a little break for some time, and you think, "Ah, I really get it now."
Right.
And as soon as you think that, the universe humbles you right away.
Yeah.
No, you
Oh,
don't.
yeah, exactly. It's like that rug that she's like, "Oh, fine, I can sleep on this." And it's like, "Nope."
Yeah,
Yeah,
the never-ending
yeah.
a never-ending journey. That's beautiful, right? That's what life is here to teach us.
Yes.
So, yeah, my passion became um, about mindfulness and this process of deconditioning and relearning the parts that we actually choose for ourselves,
Yes.
really creating who we want to be and and having right relationship with life itself, reality, and all of it. Um, and I realized I already was in school for elementary education to be a teacher. I realized, it would just be so much easier to have learned it from childhood instead of becoming an adult and then trying to retrain the mind. Just learn how to do it from scratch, from the get-go. And so my passion for the last few years and the beginning of this kind of chapter was with mindfulness in education and teaching mindfulness to children, and then a whole pathway like, it doesn't really make so much of an impact in school when we're surrounded by non-mindful adults, or when we send children home with some beautiful practices, but they're in an environment with their caregivers who have no way of relating with the little seeds, that we're planting. And so I started working with mindfulness with parents and with teachers in the school. And then it's kind of evolved into a practice where I'm mostly working with adults right now. Um, but it's such a journey of
Right.
healing and uncovering and practicing and more humility and all of it.
Yes, yes. The journey of dealing with humans of self
Mm.
is always
Yeah.
always an interesting one.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when you're dealing with something as vulnerable as the heart. Like one of the images that I still have in my mind when we had our last conversation was like that imagery that you had when you're like, we're dealing with something so precious, like we have our hearts and we like are gifting that to someone and like being like, oh, these are the parts that are like really sensitive that like don't touch. This I'm okay with, and, this one might need some care, some work, but, like, understanding yourself and having that awareness, is something that, like, I really love about our conversations. I feel like every time we speak, I just learn so much more about myself, like, so more in tune, so much more depth, and so, like, that's why I brought you here because I have more questions.
I love that.
Yeah, I will never stop being curious, Katie.
It's a
Never.
gift. It's a
Yes.
gift. Don't ever stop.
Yes.
In meditation and mindfulness, it's called beginner's mind because a beginner knows that they don't know and
Right,
they're curious, and that's the danger of expertise is that we think we know.
right.
And as soon as we think we know, yeah, we don't know. Don't know mind.
Yes.
So when you were giving that metaphor back of holding the heart in the hands like we had talked about once before, what's the name of the game where we both have a graph and we're trying to guess where each other's boats are?
Oh, Battleship?
In Battleship. Yeah. I feel like before we've done a lot of the exploratory work of self-inquiry and self-investigation, it's kind of like a blank battleship board. I'm getting into a relationship with you, I'm handing you my heart, but if I don't know the kind of wounds and pains and tenderness that I carry, you're just inevitably gonna be poking around, and at some points, it'll be like, "Ow, that hurts," and at other points, it'll be, a catastrophic explosion, and maybe it's things that I don't even know about myself yet, that I am not clear about what I carry, and I think it's beautiful that relationships can be the kind of mirror to show us, where our bruises are, but it's also part of the radical responsibility and accountability that we can take to learn the map of our heart, right? And not to get attached, not to say I'm wounded like this and I'm always going to be and you have to dance around these parts, right? Because that's kind of locking ourselves into to some pain, right? But instead, this part's really really tender. I'm going to need a lot of your help at the beginning, and and maybe some parts will always be a bit sore to the touch, but when we know, the clarity is what brings us freedom.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, exactly, and that's how I feel, like, when I've learned, like, more questions to ask, I feel, because, like, the gift of awareness is, like, it brings you deeper and deeper to, like, more questions that is, like, really calling you, like, beyond the surface level. Because it starts off of, like, you know, why did this happen to me? Like when I start to think of my past relationships, what has brought me so much deeper into my healing journey. And just why I even started this series of like relationships, dating. It I think came from all the pain for sure that I was experiencing because we learn so much through it and we grow so much through it as well. So like when I was like recently heartbroken, I would say, or just heart open, I would like to say. When my heart got open, of course, like I would wonder like, oh, why? Why did this happen to me? Like why did it have to end like this? Could I have fixed it? But like beyond that, when I moved into acceptance and just like, okay, this happened,
Mm,
right? How can I show up for myself now? And what does that look like?
mhm.
On a daily basis. Like how can I check in with myself more? Because it feels like you're like I lost like my best friend, I lost my lover, my partner, my confidant, my companion, all in one.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it does leave you with like, okay, how does that repair go now? And like I love the practices that you have implemented and like some of the things that you talk about when it comes to repair and regulation, because I feel like it's at those points right after the heartbreak and also like in my singleness and my solitude that is building the foundation of partnership for it.
It's true, right? The work that you're doing now, or when you're in a period of being primarily we're always our own caretaker, but when you just have yourself to worry about, that work is laying the foundation for how you are and who you are in all of your next relationships. And I think it's really important that we don't fall into the trap of, I'm working on myself so I can get a better partner, so I can be better later, because that just has the hook of needing something in the future. And it kind of has this like almost capitalist exchange. Like, I'm working on myself so I can get paid later. The investment of a good relationship from you, whoever you are in the future. I don't know, there's just some kind of flavor of that, right? But if instead it's me being with myself from a place of deep care, because I deserve deep care, because this body deserves to be cared for and nourished, and for vitality to flow through me, and for life to be experienced. And that's the thing, everyone wants a happy life where none of the bad stuff happens to us, but it's not reality, right? We can look at billions of life stories and know that it doesn't go that way, right? And we can feel lucky for a few chapters or a little while, but life always has a way of showing us that it's dynamic and complex,
For sure.
right? So I think the real question is, how do I enter an honest relationship with life and preserve the love in myself? How do I make the three I always go to are awareness, wisdom, and compassion, these kind of lighthouses or compasses in my life? And then any experience I have can help me to deepen my awareness, my wisdom,
Yeah.
or my compassion.
Yes. Yes, I love that. Yes, that oh my gosh, when you're saying that, I'm just like, yeah, that just feels like so wholesome because even lately I've noticed myself becoming just more accepting of life and like those moments of pain, heartbreak, and just the comfortable moments when like moments of rejection have come up or moments of not feeling chosen, not feeling wanted. Instead of I think sometimes I can have this rose tinted glasses with life and I have this happy-go-lucky spirit which I think honestly gets me through a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
But when hard things come up, it can be a little bit harder to face just because like I'm always in this optimistic state and I feel like everything is always going right for me. And yes, that is true, but also I have to honor the natural rhythm of life and know that pain is going to come up, heartbreak is going to come up, grief is going to come up, and all these uncomfortable wounds may be coming up and instead of just like being, oh no, I'm only going to accept when life is good and be happy in those moments. It's just like being accepting of like, okay, yeah, that happened. And that's okay too. It's okay to have rejection. It's normal to have rejection. It's normal to face that. It's normal to encounter those things. So, like, learning to also meet and, like, embrace myself in all those moments.
That's exactly it. It's how am I in relationship with myself as I go through this,
Yeah.
right? Like, grief is here. I don't have to try and get through my grief as quickly as I can, or the heartbreak, right? How many people want to figure out how to get through heartbreak, how to get past heartbreak? I'm sure it's one of the top searches in like Google and AI, like
Yeah.
how to get over my ex,
Right.
right? Time immemorial, like
Are you looking at my Google?
it's we all want to know, right? But
Right.
but the grief and the heartbreak, they are what we need to metabolize because they have this beautiful gift of transforming us, of bringing us into our next iteration and the next phase of emotional maturity, right? And we don't just accept it to harvest the wisdom either, right? But sitting with it, sitting deeply with it, also builds the empathy for when we have a friend or family member or stranger going through it. And it's just a real part of our life experience. And when we abandon ourselves to try and get to a happy emotion or get to something that we view as a more positive state, it registers in our body that we're abandoning ourselves. Even I don't want to be with me, which I'm sure we've all felt that at some times. Like, even I don't want to be with me
Yeah.
in this state. And it's okay. How do we come to a place where we can sit with ourselves and we're not afraid of our own emotions, not afraid of our own
Yeah.
experiences?
How do we though? Like, I'm curious, like, what do you think? Because, like, when you're in those moments when, like, grief and, like, heartbreak and pain feels so overwhelming, where it's, like, sometimes even hard to breathe,
Mhm.
like, how can we nurture and show up for ourselves? Like, what's the mindset perspective of becoming more aware and accepting of that instead of just being so overconsumed
Mm.
with the emotions during that moment? Like, what's a grounding practice in those moments, you would say?
So, when we're overcome with a flood of something really hard, what to do?
Yes.
Yeah. I think part of the mistake that a lot of us make is trying to add something. So we try to add new practices, or we try to repeat an affirmation or a mindset when we're in this kind of flooded state, or we just try to pile on more, right? And instead, when our system is overflowing, what needs to happen to an overflowing cup? Water needs to come out, right? And so we need to turn everything down a little bit and do everything less. I mean, this is really where, for me, the word grace comes in.
Okay.
Like, how can I give myself a little more grace? How can I give myself a little more compassion and understanding and reduce my expectations? If I'm not like a great friend right now showing up for other people, that was a big one for me when I went through my kind of dark night of the soul. It lasted a pretty long time. And I pride myself usually in being someone who helps and shows up and is there for other people. And I had no capacity. I had nothing in me. It was like all my life force energy was just drained out. And having some grace. All right, I can fight this. It's not going to help. What happens if I surrender and allow myself a very soft and gentle being with this? So it even is like treating yourself like a baby sometimes. Like, have less plans, take less responsibilities, tell your friends, like it's a beautiful time to practice letting people show up for you, which is way less comfortable. But just to say, I'm not doing well. I don't have energy. I feel really sad and things feel hard. And everyone will try in their imperfect ways to help you. But you also give people the gift of showing up for you, which is a gift. You love, well, it's an assumption, but most of us love to be able to really show up for someone who appreciates it, right? Who you know it's meaningful to them. And so we can give that gift to other people too, right? To let them show up for us.
Yeah.
And then it's just sensory stuff. Like buy yourself a really warm fuzzy robe that feels like a hug
Okay.
and get the soft lighting and turn off the lights when it's evening and the sun has gone down and use music to help you. There's so much powerful music where artists have put into words and sound what you're feeling, and it can be really empowering. Um, and it can really let things flow out of the body and it can be cathartic. And then also sometimes just let it be soft, like very gentle or instrumental or anything that is teaching your body. I can be in this suffering, in this grief, and I can be safe. I can know that I'm safe to feel these things. A huge part of it is our panic. I'm feeling the suffering. I'm missing them. I'm so angry at them. I'm overwhelmed. I'm heartbroken. And little by little, we can teach ourselves and our whole system, actually, I can be with this experience. It really, really hurts. This is where mindfulness practices can come in. And somatic awareness, feeling where in my body is grief? How does sadness and loneliness feel in this body system right now? It's using that curiosity. What what is this experience, this moment actually like? Not the looping stories, I'm going to be alone forever, nobody actually likes me, this always happens to me. Like the narrative stories are not very helpful. But just getting really present with the body and the moment and then softening.
Yes. I love that. That hit me because like I've also done practices like that of just like fully accepting, okay, like I'm feeling this and it's showing up maybe in my throat, it's showing up. I feel like a sensation in my heart. And also what has also helped me, I feel like is learning not to just label everything as just oh this is so painful. One of the meditative practices when I was first learning about breath work, my practitioner guided us to like instead of labeling, like if you're feeling a sensation, like whatever comes up in your body, like if your knee, is hurting, instead of like saying that, like just actually feel it. What's coming through? Is it shaking? Do you feel numb? Is it just uncomfortable? Because I feel like even that allows you to go deeper and sit with that instead of just being like, oh, I'm in pain. Like, no, actually, what are you really feeling?
Yes,
How is it really showing up?
get specific.
Yeah, yeah, getting more specific with that. I
Mm.
feel like that is where so much insight is actually coming from because then it allows you to meet yourself more with grace, like the exact, correlation that you were speaking of just softening. Because I can even admit, like sometimes when I'm in those moments where like grief feels overwhelming, I do start to add. I'm like, okay, well, I need to move. I need to get up out of this state,
Mhm.
because it may be uncomfortable for me. So I feel like I need to do do something else,
Mhm.
you know.
And sometimes it does need movement, right? Because we can also go into a freeze or a kind of cocoon or an isolation that's not ultimately beneficial, right? It can stretch too long,
Mm,
right? So we do need to keep a little bit of a perspective of healthy balance. But maybe it's then you go for a walk and you don't bring your headphones. There's no podcast, there's no music going on. You and your body walking or with a friend. Even if you just say, it's not so common,
yeah.
but I would love to challenge everyone to say to a friend, can we go for a walk together and not talk? Just walk next to each other and go to nature and just be together walking in silence. And you'd be surprised at how much healing or insight or tenderness or nothing, we don't have to get something out of it, but just to have a little bit of gentle movement in the body and to know that we're not alone. I spent a lot of time laying on the floor, just full starfish, crying on the floor, surrendered to what I was feeling, my emotions, my body sensations, watching the thoughts, watching the stories, learning how convincing and precise they are, and going through the threshold of asking, how much rest am I allowed? Because I would feel guilty if I spent the whole day doing nothing. And then I learned I needed to spend some days doing nothing, just letting the body be. And then a few days sometimes, how many am I allowed in a month? It's up to me,
Right. Yeah.
like all in balance,
Yeah.
all in balance. Because now, for example, my partner and I, we call them baby days.
Okay.
And like a little baby that you rock.
Mm.
Because your only job sometimes, if we request a baby day, it's when you have the privilege of not too many responsibilities going on and you can take the rest, which is an important thing to prioritize. And you just eat and sleep, maybe move a little bit, go to the bathroom. If you need to cry, you cry. And that's a baby day.
Yeah.
And your partner kind of helps you. So maybe they'll bring you the food or the tea. They do a little bit of service that day. And it's really nice. It's pretty rejuvenating.
Yeah.
And I just think we've totally created a culture that doesn't allow for real rest.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Numbing out on TV is not rest.
Yeah. No. We're doom scrolling.
Yeah, doom scrolling is definitely not rest.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Like always movement sometimes. And I feel like that's where I catch myself when I always immediately result to like, okay, I'm feeling uncomfortable. I need to feel a different way. Instead of just like, okay, I'm feeling this, let me feel it, let me recognize it. And I feel like that's where pattern recognition first comes from, of having that awareness of what you're feeling, how is it showing up, okay, and also how are you processing that, how are you accepting that. And, with me learning my patterns, I feel like it's one thing, into my level of awareness, but learning to disrupt those patterns and not just like, oh yeah, I can read this book and I can listen to this podcast, and just like, I know so much, but then going back to the journey of like, we don't know, like, and some things we won't know until we know, and then we think we know, and then we don't know again.
And the patterns come out in new ways in our life. They find new manifestations.
Mm, yes, yes. So like on those moments where I'm thinking about pattern disruption, because of course like when we're talking about like how it feels and what's showing up and coming into our bodies, I feel like that is a huge part of learning pattern recognition, so many people are talking about now. But when it comes to actually disrupting those patterns, like when okay, these are some of my triggers, this is how I'm processing when things feel uncomfortable, when suffering comes up, this is how I usually deal with it. And like when you're learning to disrupt those patterns with grace and more empathy so that you can create a culture within yourself to like where you can even bring up things like baby days, and partnership. Like I love that idea. But like coming from someone who is like still learning how to even give themselves more grace, what could you recommend to like softening up and just like actually disrupting patterns that you may avoid,
Mm.
and may not be aware of?
So, how do we, once we've built awareness
Right.
and we start to notice the patterns, maybe we've become familiar with them and then we can see through time how they're not really helpful, right? And now, how do we make the change?
Right.
Even when we have read the books and
Right.
listened to the podcasts and heard the experts and bookmarked a bunch of stuff on Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah. The trouble is that when we understand it, that's a very mental phenomena.
Right.
We understand, we know, because we've been reading the books, we've been listening to knowledge, right? But this body is very ancient technology. It's old systems, old hardware. And so you can have the most advanced software, but if you're putting it into old hardware, there are some limitations, right? And so when we're trying to make these big changes in the patterns that we have habituated, what has become automatic reactions for us. The knowledge is important and the self-awareness is essential, but now it the work is all in that moment when we're activated. It's kind of like when we're triggered or activated, when we're dysregulated and our nervous system is kind of going berserk.
Yeah.
Uh, it's almost like we jump into like a different realm, a different portal. Like you can hear it when people say, I don't know what happened, or I don't feel like myself, or I can't think straight, during those times. It's like a different, it's a different world. We're kind of living in a different world, right? Because we're living in a survival world. Right now, we have a lot of access to our prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that's right closest to my hand when I put my hand on my head. Um, it's where our planning and our executive function happens, kind of our higher order thinking.
Yes, yeah.
And when we're in survival states, it kind of goes offline. So we don't have access to all of our great knowledge and information and our spectacularly laid plans because the body is now in this kind of animal body where we're just trying to survive. Even if the threat is like deadlines and meetings with the bosses and work being behind, or our partners being angry at us if we know that we're physically safe, it still can feel like a threat, right? So when we're changing the pattern, we have to kind of go into those moments that we're activated to do very small and incremental work. And it'll take a lot of repetitions, but it's basically the same thing that we talked about before, is teaching the body it's safe and that there's a different outcome here that's possible.
Yeah.
So maybe I become dysregulated or I get triggered and my escape mechanism is like scrolling or numbing out, right? When I start to feel that activation in the body, my behavior is go to the distraction because I can't stand feeling the sensations or the kinds of thoughts or the emotions that are in my system. So instead, if I can practice just a little bit when I'm activated, what's it like to stay with this for a moment before reaching for my automatic behavior, before reaching for the distraction, before walking out on my partner, before the opposite, like clinging on during a fight, before I go to the behavior that's that I'm kind of using for soothing? Can I just be with what my direct experience is a little longer than I've been before? And really, what research has found is that emotions, just a pure emotion, has a lifespan of about 90 seconds. But when we're telling stories about it, she really shouldn't have said that to me. I can't believe she did that. What has she done? She always does this. The story loops it.
Yeah.
So it's basically like pressing the reset button, and your 90 seconds never gets to crest and break because it's reset, 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 reset,
Spirals.
Yeah, yeah. We go into loops. So if we can instead teach the body, okay, I am experiencing a lot of anxiety right now. I can feel it in my chest. I can feel my throat constricting. I'm having a lot of thoughts about what can go wrong. And I'm just going to stay with what I'm experiencing in the body a little longer. Just get a little curious. What happens? What happens if I put my hand on my chest and my stomach to give myself a little containment? What happens if I slow down my breathing a little bit? Not because I'm trying to control everything, but just curiosity. Can I stay with this in a different way? And when you can teach your system, okay, my friend, anxiety, my oldest friend, I can, you're here, you're like ringing the doorbell and you're coming in no matter what, right? I can be with you. I'm not going to try to push you away or fix you when it's safe, like actually physically the situation is safe. I can learn to be with it, and I can see that it has a wave and an arc, and it crests and then it breaks, and I can get to the end. And I'll practice it many times before my body starts to learn, okay, this is an experience we have as this self in this human body, and I trust myself to be able to be with it. That's the differentiator. That's the pattern breaker. I trust that I can be with myself through this.
Wow. Yeah, even you saying that, it just felt like unlocking a new empathy, like a new level of empathy within self. Cause like, oh man, like that's where it starts. Like this is where the foundation is built when you can learn to be with yourself in those moments of like grief, anxiety, and overstimulation. Because like I'm thinking about times when I was just like super overactivated within partnership and like even the concept of co-regulation, it just felt like such a heavy thing. And like when everything feels clenched and closed up, my immediate action is usually to just isolate. I just get really quiet. And sometimes a long time, I didn't know how to be with myself in those moments. I didn't know how to meet myself in those moments. I feel like I would go isolation mode within myself, just like completely ghost because I was afraid that I was gonna get too angry. I was afraid that I maybe would say something wrong, or just go, into spirals that I didn't want to be in. So I would abandon myself. I would abandon my partner. I would just like go quiet. And I feel like through those moments when I was learning to just be quiet and really listen into what my body was saying, what I was thinking, how I felt, um, I was able to learn how to disrupt those patterns of instead of just like completely going blank on everything. It's like, okay, like let me actually feel this. Let me sit with this. Let me not run from this. Not let me not like say, "No, this is not acceptable." Like, "Oh, no, that's good. No, that's bad. Don't say that." Like, "Okay, I'm sitting with me right now. How am I feeling?" Because I feel like a lot of times I would go so quiet because like I was afraid of hurting someone, hurting the other person. And so I would try to keep this false sense of peace, and just be quiet. Don't say nothing. Oh, they're mad. Okay, I don't want to make them more mad, but I'm feeling this way. Maybe I shouldn't feel that way. No, 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 no. And then when I learned that, okay, actually, it's okay for me to communicate some things, you know, in a healthy way because it's,
And necessary.
yes, yes. And I learned like we can say hard things, but it doesn't have to come out so harsh.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It can be a kind of courageousness on your part if it's uncomfortable and challenging to communicate. It can be an act of kind of bravery or courage to share it with a partner. And the delivery can be compassionate still, compassionate to yourself and compassionate to the receiver. They don't need to contradict each other. We can say hard things in ways that land.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. I think you're really good at like reframing those different kind of conversations because I know like when I was first learning how to even communicate, I would just kind of throw some words and just be like, I don't really know how I'm feeling right now, but like I don't really like the way that you said that,
Yeah.
and like sometimes just saying that it was just like, okay, felt good.
And it's what's honest,
Yeah.
right? Because if we also hold ourselves to a benchmark, if I'm someone who struggles to communicate and even struggles to know how I'm feeling,
Yeah.
right? And then I'm setting the goal that I should be able to communicate with great emotional vocabulary and specificity. I'm not setting myself up for success, right? The learning process is extremely messy. Look at how kids learn. It's mud all over the place. It's paint in their hair. Like the kitchen's a mess. Learning is messy. We fall a million times before we can walk, right? And grace, again, it's grace. It's grace for our learning process. If we did not have parents or caregivers or whoever was in our house or primarily in our life who had these skills were modeling them in an embodied way, or at least workshopping them to talk it through as they were learning themselves. We are in adult bodies doing a very messy learning process to try and get to an emotional maturity that I would argue most humans don't get to, right? And so we have to give ourselves grace that it's going to be messy, that some of the conflicts and ruptures are going to be tough and tender, and we're not going to say it right. But there's a beauty. If I come to you 4 hours later and say, I said this thing and it was really hurtful to you, I said it in a moment of just sheer anger and not thinking clearly. And I think it's horrible. And I wish I didn't say it. And instead, what I should have communicated was when you XYZ, I was feeling whatever, and I want to request blank. I mean, there really are some formulas for anyone who's interested. Um, Now they're calling it compassionate communication. The older name of it is nonviolent communication, which is still used a lot, and is frequently referenced. But it really gives a kind of formula for how we can communicate the variety of emotions, our variety of needs, naming what happened in a way that doesn't attack or dehumanize the other person, and then getting clear about the request that we have
Right.
and seeing if they have the space and capacity to help meet us there.
Yeah.
But being honest about the messy parts, that's authentic too.
Yeah,
That builds intimacy too.
for sure.
I don't know why I'm mad at you, so it's probably not about you, but I feel angry right now,
Yeah.
and I love you, but I need some space, and I don't know why, but we'll come back to it. That can be honest too.
Yeah. 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 Like that feels like okay. Like I'm sure as a receptive partner hearing that, that would be like, okay, I can understand. Let's take a break.
She's going through her thing.
Yeah, yeah, we can talk about this, and also like given kind of like a timeline of like, okay, when would you like to come back to it? Just so you can have like a source of like checking in and like, following up. Um,
And trusting,
yeah,
trusting that in the relationship, the rupture matters and coming back together matters, right? Because too often it's uncomfortable. We don't like how it feels. We want to push it under the rug so we can get back to the cuddling,
yeah,
can get back to the, lovey stuff or planning our next date or whatever it is, right? Going out with all of our friends. But when we push it under the rug, it doesn't go away. It builds up. And the next one has all that fuel underneath whatever the new conflict is.
yeah, yeah. That's so true. Yeah. So like in those
Deep stuff.
moments, yeah, right? Like that's what I'm just thinking because when we're talking about pattern disruption, pattern recognition, and that repair process, especially where we're in the midst of conflict, right? Like I remember you said something on our last conversation that like really changed the way that I saw regulation and co-regulation and even how it goes back to childhood of like our first experiences of co-regulation and like what that actually felt like to us and then how we bring that into a partnership, into a relationship. And so I just like wanted to share a little bit on like what is actual co-regulation, what are the misunderstandings of it, and like how can we actually implement co-regulation into our relationships.
Yeah. Co regulation is a beautiful tool. It's not even, I don't even want to minimize it by calling it a tool, right? It's just part of this human experience. We need each other.
Yeah, for sure.
A baby without caregivers will not survive, period. We, elephants are pregnant for 2 years. And when they come out, the baby elephant can do everything. It can walk, it can run, it can trumpet. It's like a fully functioning. Horses are a lot the same. I think they come out and within 4 hours or something, they're running. Anyone can fact check me and correct me if I need to continue my learning. But human babies are not the same. How old do we have to be before we can feed ourselves, even walk, right? Even just walking. And it's actually because our brains and heads are so big that we have to come out early or else a mother can't carry
Mm.
the child with how developed our brains will become. Um, anyway, so the point is that we as a human species are made for each other and we need each other. We are tribal and collective, and we are made to interbe. And so naturally, when you see babies and their mother, if the baby could have it their way, they very often want to be on mom, right? It's a practice now that they do, or they try to do in many hospitals, which is skin to skin contact almost right away, right? I know a lot of fathers and other parents have skin to skin time. It's just that literally the touch of someone else's skin helps us to feel calm, not alone, safe, held, cared for. And even if we don't remember our own infancy, it's deep in this system's memory and just in our DNA from the last hundreds of thousands of years that we are made to feel safe when we're with a safe other. So the co-regulation is when one person is grounded and regulated and in that kind of safe providing space to help you or to help the child when they become dysregulated. When they fall and scrape their knee, I think this is the example we used last time. A child looks down and all they know is that their knee is more painful and feels on fire and they've never seen all this blood coming out. And it's the most horrific experience they can imagine.
Right.
And then if it gets like on their blankie, forget it, you
Yeah.
know? Like,
Yeah, it's self-less. Yeah.
that's it. The parent, you know, knows what's the right level of panic here. And most of the time, a scraped knee needs to get cleaned up and bandaged. And the child needs to be held to understand this is okay. This is actually safe. It hurts. I'm okay. I'm held and cared for. So basically, long story short, that gets carried in and replayed in our adult relationships with each other. So it can be with a friend, it can be teachers and students. When something is, well, teachers and students, you know, it's with young children, they need a lot of co-regulation. There's a lot of boundaries and barriers,
Verification.
you know.
Yeah.
Um, but but actually, I mean, that's a whole other topic I could get into because young children need co-regulation. We can't send 5-year-olds into schools who are getting hurt on the playground, but you're not allowed to touch them, right? Like they need caring adults who can co-regulate them and tell them everything's okay
Right.
and give them a little hug and some love and safety. Anyway, so this is what we need as adults as well. And we can only give it to each other if one of us is grounded and regulated.
Right.
So you asked about myths. And the myth is that when we're both agitated or in our big argument or both dysregulated, we cannot co-regulate each other. Maybe you can share a little bit of like, yeah, what that experience feels like when two non-regulated systems
Yeah.
are trying to connect again
Yeah.
too early, right? Or too soon. What's that like?
Uh, I think the first thing that just came up was like explosion. It's like fire, fighting fire. It's like because I remember in a moment that I brought up with you, it was like I tried to come to my partner because she was feeling some kind of way over something I said. And I tried to come with this sense of like, okay, like what's going on? Like what's wrong? Immediately going into repair where I think maybe she just wanted to express herself and I'm trying to mediate immediately. And I think that's also a learning lesson that I learned is like, because I'm so solution based and always thinking like, okay, how can I solve this? Like I think sometimes people just need a space to where they're just like, I'm fucking mad.
Yeah.
And then you just got to be like, okay, like,
A lot of
okay.
times we just want to be heard
Yeah.
first.
Yeah. And I think that was the thing where maybe, it just became like so much fuel and fire, fighting fire because then she was like getting mad, more mad at me. And then now I'm getting mad. And it just was like an explosion and we weren't able to really repair at all. And in that moment when I was dating her and we was having those conversations and arguments got really loud and just like I was feeling dysregulated, it was hard for me to even think about co-regulation because we're both overactivated. We're both in a state where we can't mediate. And then even when we took some space and tried to repair again, I feel like it was also like that thing where we weren't really saying those uncomfortable
Mm.
truths of like, I went to sleep last night and you like just didn't say shit to me. And like, what's up with that? It was like, oh, just like immediately just kind of brush over that, some hug, love, whatever. And I've learned that also that shows a lot about me as a person and who I am, what I want in repair. I can't just immediately brush over things and be like, oh, okay, well, you feel okay? All right.
It feels inauthentic.
It does. It does. It does. It didn't sit right with me. And I think
Mhm.
that also added more fuel on the fire because now we're spiraling back into the thing from last night and then now it's this. So yeah, I just feel like it's, fire. It's
Yeah.
fire.
I think the best way to give a short definition to co-regulation is I'm lending you my calm. If I'm on fire, I don't have any calm to lend. Like I don't know where my calm went, like it's gone and I can't give you any,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes we also, especially if we are more conflict averse, we're so desperate for the argument to end and are trying to repair in the same moment. It doesn't have to be in the same moment, right? Like, if we can develop a trust in the relationship that we will always come back to what's important, not days and days and days later,
Right.
right? But if we can trust that we'll come back, then we can trust when our partner says, and we can teach trust for our partner. When we say, I need some space, I'm going to take some space for myself because I can feel myself being defensive, or I'm afraid I'm going to say something that I don't mean, or I feel just too much agitation to have a healthy conversation right now. So I'm going to go be with myself and come back when I can be the person I want to be
Mm. Yeah.
in this. Right. And it's okay. It's okay if two people who are both engulfed in the flames go have some separation to put out the fire and then to come back. Or maybe one person is able to get regulated and able to share their calm. But you have to just be careful of the dynamic, because if I'm the one who can return to a calm place first, and I'm always coming to co-regulate and help you, to show you uh, you're safe here. Maybe it's with my face, with my tone of voice, with my body language, right? You'll be able to read all of those things subconsciously to begin knowing that you're safe and maybe don't need your defenses up. But it doesn't mean that your anger or irritation or sadness is the only thing that gets the spotlight. I might come and help you to get back to here together, but we still later need to have the conversation where we are both taking accountability for what happened and our part, and where we take turns sharing our understanding of what each other experienced,
Right.
so that you know and can reflect on what was my experience, even if you don't agree, but and I know
Right.
and I can do the same for you. And then we can begin to make repairs and take accountability and, figure out what actions we want to work on together,
Right.
or what we want to do next time, or what sensitive parts of the battleship,
Right.
need to be taken into account.
Right. Right. And I think that's also like perspective that like really changes how you go about these conversations of just like having empathy, of course, but also like leaning into the perspective where you were the aggressor. Like, because in their mind, you were, and in your mind, they were.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's like that Spider-Man meme,
Yeah.
but it pointing the fingers at each other, you
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
so it's like in that moment when you're having that conversation and like, okay, one person has maintained this sense of calm, this sense of peace where it can be like a nice landing space of like, okay, I'm okay to talk about this. I want to hear you. I want to be heard as well. I think that is like such an important perspective that you gifted me the last time we talked of like, okay, in the other person's mind, you were the aggressor,
Mm.
right? And now you're trying to mediate that point without like trying to fight, argue them back. I think it's just like learning how to have that mutual sense of understanding of like, okay, how did that affect you? How did that impact? Because impact versus intention, can for sure get discombobulated.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I think like when you're learning that perspective, it taps into so much more of awareness and like having those real conversations where people are both feeling hurt and both feeling that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, when we're hurting,
Yeah.
we want the other person to come meet us.
Right. For sure.
We don't want to go meet the other person and abandon our story. Part of it is that we're attached to our stories, right? I mean, kind of on the highest level. But we want to be who's right, and we want to come be met and understood. We don't want to go meet and understand when we're super activated,
Right.
right? But I think this is a lot of where self-honesty comes in. And when I'm taking my space in the spare room or out on the porch, and I'm sitting with myself, and maybe I'm having a kind of contemplative, self inquiring meditation of, all right, Katie, what is going on here? This really hurts. It's not all about Amani and what he just said. It's something else is here. What is it? What do you want me to know? Or writing it out or journaling it, right? Getting it out of the body. Those moments of reflection, if I'm courageous enough to be self honest, it will help me when I come back into the relationship to communicate and to be honest with my partner. But if I'm hiding things from myself, even, there's 0% chance that I can be authentic, honest, and build intimacy, real intimacy with my partner, right? So, those moments of stepping away or the reflection that you do afterwards, the night after, maybe you even have a pretty good repair, but in the days that come next, you are understanding more deeply where it's coming from or what it touched in you or actually, what the kind of sharp point was to be able to bring it back.
Yeah.
Not because I want to open up a fight again, but because it matters to me that you understand, and I equally want to understand about you. But we can't ask to receive the work that we're not willing to do,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's some some kind of like relational reciprocity, right? Like I can't expect my partner to listen and care deeply if I'm not also giving and offering my deep care and attention in a non-selfish way. Just listen to their story to understand their world.
Yes. That part. That like when you said reciprocity, that stuck out to me too because like I don't want someone listening to also just feel like them always having to be the one to come with this sense of peace, with conversation, and them feeling like, okay, like, yes, I did my part. But I feel like this is showing your partner, like, okay, this is how we can handle conflict together. This is how we can come together safely. And like, you're teaching them how to love you. And if that's not reciprocated, I just feel like that it should be another conversation that should be had, of just like, first of all, with yourself. Are you honestly okay with the version of you that you're becoming with them? feel like you're abandoning yourself in these moments because I can also look back and see some moments where I was coming with like this sense of like calm and like listening, understanding, okay, I know that in your mind I did this. This really hurt you. Okay, I understand that. But when I wasn't like when it was constantly me having to initiate those conversations.
Sure, then resentment builds. Tons of resentment builds.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it got to a point where it was like, okay, I feel like I'm kind of like showing you the way that we can do this together, and didn't feel like we were doing this together. It felt like it was always just me trying to initiate these conversations, trying to actually initiate repair, and actually wanting to have these conversations. I just feel like it's at a certain point where you have to be honest with yourself in these repair conversations of like, is this being reciprocated? Are we actually building a culture where we can like both come together and be heard, be like seen and be shown like, okay, this is how we're gonna do this. Because if not, then I feel like that is also going to keep adding fuel to the fire.
For sure. I love the term that you used, building the culture of a relationship. Like you really do in some ways become a multi-celled organism.
Yeah.
And you have to, take care of your cell, and your health, but there is also this kind of whole ecosystem of a relationship and you're building a culture within it. Not everyone is capable of being a healthy partner to you, no matter what you do, right? You can imagine the most gross version of it is someone who's very attuned, self-aware, connected, clear communicator, and someone who's completely uninterested in all of that and carrying a lot of pain that gets projected in all the domains of their life.
Yeah. Especially if they're in survival mode as well.
Yeah. They'll come together, and it does not matter how much work this person does. First of all, he's not her therapist, right? But there won't be a healthy and balanced dynamic. In a healthy and balanced dynamic, we take turns being the one who shows up or being the one who hurts. Yeah, I was reflecting with my partner this morning before coming here that, I was saying something along the lines of like, thank you for being my practice and also my experience in a really healthy relationship. But tons of it is from the work, the heartbreak, the grief, the behaviors that I tolerated or excused because I understood their history or whatever it was, right? My own conditioning, my own childhood stuff, right? And then I thought, well, but it's not just him either, because he's been in his share of other relationships that didn't feel balanced and healthy from the inside, right? So it really is a two-way system. And the question is this a person who right now is committed to some kind of growth and understanding, not just because they say it, right? Like, we really, really, really have to look at consistency of actions over words. It's kind of heartbreaking because people can plead their case and give you lots of beautiful words and storytellings and arcs. But the truth of it is, not everyone can be a healthy partner for us. And sometimes it means walking away from lots of interesting people or attractive people or people who you have high chemistry with, like, which can also be a danger sign.
Yeah.
And instead, we look at who's consistent over time,
Right.
like who really walks the walk and and giving people time to show you
Yeah.
who and how they are and giving each other grace for growth and a partner who says, I don't know what I'm feeling, but it's hard for me and I I don't want to misspeak and I don't want to create harm. So I'm going to take a break. That's a trillion times better than someone who can name all their feelings but explodes at you every Friday and,
You're right.
where there's no pattern that's changing. You're not growing together. The dynamic needs to be mostly a safe and healthy space with a lot more positive than negative in order for it to be soil where you can grow.
For sure. For sure. Yes. I feel like that is also coming into perspective. Like,
Mm.
um, when you see someone's potential.
Oh,
Oh,
don't even get me started on people's potential.
yeah. Oh man,
Oh man.
that really hit a nerve there. As soon as I said potential, he's
That
like,
one.
oh, that was
I
super sad.
I see everyone's potential.
No. I know. I think that also comes like with people who are so empathetic, it's like naturally you see the best in people. You want to bring that out in them because everybody has these goals. Everybody has these dreams. And like I realized that from a young age, honestly, like when I was thinking about what has shaped me and my view on life. I remember times when I would just speak to, the average ordinary person per to say, the janitors, the delivery drivers, my bus drivers, about their dreams, their goals in life. And I found that no one is void of having these amazing dreams in life, like they had some people that was just like doing really, really cool things, they were like in bands or like they was following this like huge passionate project and dream that they had set their sights on and
Doesn't have to be the career that we're working.
right, exactly. They just like were following their heart and what they loved. And then at some point or at a certain point, things got I don't know, sacrifice. Um things happen, and at some point they just ended up in a space where maybe they couldn't pursue those hard projects anymore. And so when I'm coming back and I'm thinking about people's potentials and like learning about what people actually do and how they're showing up, it's just like it does require consistency
Mhm.
because at some point, yes, we could be actually doing these things. We could be saying all the right things. We could be going through the culture of like maintaining this ecosystem or the maintaining the culture that we're wanting to create in the safe spaces that we're maintaining, but consistency and the patterns.
It's about dating for character and value. Like we I real it kind of sounds like old-fashioned or something, but like values-based dating is really important. Someone's character and integrity is really important. What matters to them more than anything? Because when you have one or two core values, maybe for some people it's get rich because that's stability and security and safety for them. That's super valid if you grew up in an environment that was unstable and unsafe. It, or even if you grew up in an environment that's safe and stable and that's how you know how to keep it. Okay. But if I value instead deep compassion, my partner needs to have at least pretty well valued compassion,
Yeah.
on the list. And I mean that's another piece of self-knowing, right? Is understanding our own values and then integrity of our own character. I mean, that's what we're really in charge of.
Yeah.
You made me think of something stupid that I read. Um, I think somebody sent it to me during my I was dating lots of people and just like exploring lots of different types of um characters, right? To see who do I get on with? Like what's a good match? What feels right? What doesn't? So I guess it was a meme, but somebody was like, uh, I'm 30 years old. I don't care about your potential. I need you to be already potentied or like already fully potentied.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, yeah, no, I am done with people's potential. Like, you need to be walking your walk. You need to be living your values. The integrity that is important to someone will shine through in their life, in their stories, in their other relationships, in how they treat all the people around them, in how they treat you in moments of conflict and difficulty.
Yes.
And it sometimes takes a while to see all that.
Yeah, yeah. But those are the patterns that really are going to show you like, is this sustainable? Does this feel like this is catering to the most authentic and loving version of me that I can be with this person?
Yeah.
Like that, I feel like it's such a breakthrough moment.
And your partnership is the most important, arguably, person you'll ever choose in your
Yeah,
life.
yeah,
Like
you're
the
choosing.
only family member you get to choose, really,
Sure.
right? Because even your kids, they might be half of your DNA, maybe. and you don't get to choose their personality or who they are or, what they become.
Yes,
We
that's
try to influence. Yeah, but, and then sometimes the research or a theory says we are a collection of the influence of the 5 people we're closest to or that we spend the most time with. Your partner is going to be in that top 5, if not the top 1,
right.
right? So pick wisely.
Choose wisely.
Like, don't, it's not worth it just to have a ring or a boyfriend or whatever.
Now we're learning how to choose wisely, and I feel like we've gotten so much insight of like pattern recognition, pattern disruption. When is it time to go? When is it time to repair? How can I go about these conversations? You do so much work with mindfulness and like meditative practices as well as active life practices. Um, that I would also like you to share just a little bit of like, okay, let's say I'm ready. I'm ready and I'm accepting, I'm open to actually putting into practice these mindfulness practices. First off, for myself. So could you give me like just like 3 mindfulness practice meditative that I can start using like today for
Mhm.
myself?
It's so hard.
Just
I have
3.
so many loves. Um, yeah. So I'll share with you, and you can share with viewers a link. Um, but just of 2 kind of, yeah, we'll use the word ecosystem again, 2 kind of ecosystems of mindfulness meditation practices, which you can do on your own. It's kind of what you would think of more traditional meditation, where you're seated and working inwardly. And then the other ecosystem is applied mindfulness. How do we walk the walk?
Right.
What does it look like to bring mindfulness, which is paying attention on purpose to something in the present moment with a heart of compassion and non judgment? How do I bring that to the small moments of my day? So, yeah, the integration into communication, even small communications at the coffee shop, to the movement of my body, to those moments when I'm activated and practicing regulation, to my job. It doesn't have to be a passion career. It can be any small act, right? I can bring mindfulness to it. So really looking at, yeah, these different domains of personal practices and then how I extend them
Mm,
into the world.
right.
So if I'm only allowed to pick 3 practices, what would it be? Um, okay. Well, breath is a famous anchor because it's always with us. And it's kind of this smallest particle of being. Um, if you begin to do a meditation on the breath, you will likely very quickly experience the mind going everywhere except the feeling of the breath. And you can structure it a few different ways. One of the classic ways to do meditation of breathing is to focus just on the sensation of breath coming in and out of the nostrils. But it can be a helpful anchor if you find that the mind is wandering to count breaths. You can count to 10 and then backwards from 10 and then to 10 and backwards in and out counting your breaths. Um, it it's so important because what it really helps to do is develop our concentration and our focus as well as our curiosity. So, how can I make this little breath that's with me all the time that I do automatically? How can I make it the center of my attention? And how can I control is the wrong word. But how can I practice my skills of attention?
Okay.
Rehearsing, like lifting weights at the gym, where I hear people can eventually lift stronger and stronger weights. And it's the same thing with reps
Yeah.
of breath and attention. You'll find that even if someone just did meditation of breathing, mindfulness of breathing, you'll see insight and change in other domains of your life. Um, I guess my numbers 2 and 3 are going to be body and thoughts. So when you go if you take a temple retreat here in Thailand, for example, or many other places, they'll have walking meditations,
Okay.
which now is bringing mindfulness to the practice of a very simple and slow walking. It's quite amazing when you slow down and you realize uh, how hard it is, actually. Like, in what order do I move my feet? You'll be shocked at what feels so innate. How when you break it down into its smallest parts and bring your awareness there, how much more you can notice. But you can also work with the body by doing body scans or guided relaxation, where you're really kind of moving through the different parts and sensations in the body and just inviting a little more gentleness, a little more openness, a little more relaxation. And this is all helpful because if I learn in a safe and quiet environment the skills of relaxing and opening or being with my body sensations without trying to change them, without judging them, just that gentle noticing, it helps me in all the moments that we talked about before,
For sure.
right? That we've covered. And then the last category I would suggest is mindfulness of thoughts, which is really working to sit on the edge of the river stream and just watch what's floating by. Sometimes they use the metaphor of clouds in the sky, just watching the clouds, watching the weather. Um, but it's really not getting stuck in the stories. So we create a little bit of space. And it's also what happens in a lot of psychology and therapy interventions is making a little bit of space between our thoughts and what's happening in our mind and our experience of them. So instead of being in the story of why I'm mad at my partner, to bring it all back to this, I can see, oh, there are a lot of self righteous thoughts right now.
Mm.
Oh, I'm experiencing thoughts of past conflict. I'm experiencing thoughts of past partners. Okay, not going into the story, but just practicing to make a little bit of space between our thought stream and being the one who can observe it.
Yes.
Yeah. But I would suggest doing everything through a guided meditation, like Insight Timer, for example, has a lot of great free guided meditations. And let someone else kind of walk you through what the process can be. You can find a voice or a teacher that you like. I'm also listed on Insight Timer if you want to check it out.
Okay.
And you can really just start to internalize the process for yourself and then find what works for you.
Yeah. Wow. I'm so grateful for you sharing that. For sure, I think all of your offerings and your gifts that you bring as far as like your framework and your perspective is super valuable. So like if I want to go and work with you some more, like and really get deeper into like imagining myself into this being that like I see, that I feel, that I know I can be, as far as my heart-centered practices and my heart-centered, most authentic, loving self. How can I get in touch with you and work with you?
Well, that's beautiful. And that's exactly the kind of people that I love working with.
Good.
Um, and so I do have a website which kind of captures everything, or Instagram that you can follow or get connected to all of the links with. Maybe we include that on the bottom or on the screen.
Yeah.
Pop here,
Mm.
magic effect.
Yeah.
I don't know. But my company is called Mind Heart Evolution. And it's really what we're doing. We're just being co-creators and active builders in the evolution of our mind and our mental training and our heart, our relationships, the way we live, how we live with integrity, all of it. So yeah, I do offer private coaching, one-on-one, and then sometimes courses to do in a cohort and in a community of people, which
Nice.
we will
Okay.
start. Yeah.
Nice. I didn't know about that.
Mm.
Great. Well, definitely we'll up here and
Perfect. I really hope we can make it happen in a cloud.
yeah, it would just be like a cloud of us and it's just like so Yeah, I appreciate you for sharing that, Katie. It's so lovely every time that we speak. Like, I know that this conversation has been so valuable to me, and like, I love that the love that we share, and the light, and just the awareness, the observation of just this pure, authentic state of being. This feels like a state of being that I've tapped into, that like really has been channeled down from my higher self. And it's like, yo, have this conversation. You hear, you in it, and I hear you. I'm in it. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, I appreciate you and thank you so much for not only doing the work in yourself, but being willing and brave to share it outwardly with everyone through the process and with honesty and with the complexity and being able to inspire other people with our own journeys.
Yeah, yeah. This is the heart, man. Amani's infinite love. So it is some vulnerable things, but I do appreciate that. I appreciate you for sharing your perspective and all your gifts and talents. So how about this? Since we're ending the episode off, would you like to join me in like a 3 deep breath
I
meditation?
would love to.
Yeah, just so we can also share that love more and more,
Love to.
more with the viewers. So, um, we'll end it off. How would you like to do? Maybe 3 breaths in for 3 seconds. Exhale in for 3 seconds. Not blow in. Okay. Inhale. Exhale. Ah, yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Infinite love to you. Infinite love to you. And thank you so much for being on my infinite love.